Our state has some incredible problems. My name is Lynn Hinderrocker. I'm here to talk about that with you and talk about the trends that have shaped this state and dragged us in one direction or another. We're not really we're not realizing the dream we had way back in the early 2000s or even around 2008 or 9 or 10. My name is Lynn Hinderrocker. Welcome to Biz Nebraska. We're going to get it on right now. How do you make sense of a complex, challenging, uncertain situation? If you say, well, I can do that fairly easily, I can interpret reality for my employees and the people that work around me, you are probably a conceptual leader. We'll talk about that very soon and how to behave as a conceptual leader during this COVID-19 period and all the craziness that's been going on the last 3 to 4 or 5 months. My name is Lynn Hinderrocker. Welcome to Biz Nebraska. And speaking of people who can clarify and elucidate a challenging and uncertain environment, I've got Mr. Bruce Aaron here. Sir, thank you so much for joining me.
Elucidate?
Elucidate, yeah.
You got to look that up.
That was a wonderful word.
Wow,
and
that's a great word.
I brought you on just so I could throw it out at you. But anyway, did the notion of conceptual leadership make sense to you as I just used that?
Yes.
Yeah. You know, so many leaders in a strategic planning mode, they pull out the budgets and they get the spreadsheets laid out on the sheet, and they kind of expect to kind of march forward step by step through this plotting process.
Right.
And I'm suggesting, and the late Peter Senge said this, by the way, that conceptual leadership is defining some overarching vision that the company should aspire to go to.
Right.
Does that make sense to you?
Oh, totally. It does to me, because I think it has a lot to do with how you're wired personally.
Yeah.
Some people can't relate to that.
Yeah.
I do. I mean, I get totally what you're saying. But I'm not a real spreadsheet guy either. So.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Do you think people that should try to be more like that, or should they bring in outsiders and say, well, you're kind of the catalyst for helping us think more conceptually about the future?
Well, I think in a lot of cases they need help thinking that way.
Yeah.
It's hard to just turn that on
Yeah.
if you're not naturally that way.
Exactly.
If you're naturally that way, it just kind of happens,
Yeah.
But no, I think people need help a lot of times.
Okay, cool. I was recently involved in a strategic planning session, and once again, the client, I was the consultant in this particular role, and the client said, we want to do strategy, and so we marched forward together for about 90 minutes. And it was a very linear, segmented conversation. Stay focused on the product, stay focused on operations, that kind of thing.
Right.
And so there was that grid, and I said, the process is very interesting. I said, why don't we try to portray visually what the process should look like? Okay? What we're not literally our product or anything, but what would you draw to symbolize the process that we're going through?
You illustrate the process of conceptualizing?
Yes, of
planning,
of scanning the environment, and, who do we want to sell to, what's going on that's going to impact demand and all that.
Okay.
Yeah. And they said, well, I don't know, we're not great graphically. Right? I said, I'll show you what I'm thinking of, right? And they said, okay, let's see it. And so I'm going to hold this up here for our cameraman. This is what it looked like, Bruce. This was not what they were expecting.
This is what your grandchildren drew?
This is not my grandchildren.
You just pulled that off the fridge?
I went ahead and I created this. But what you see here is 2 layers of thought, okay? You see straight lines,
yes.
Of course.
Right.
And that represents straight lines of linear exploration of various planning elements. Okay. But then you see circles kind of overlapping everything. That would be like a second level of thought, right?
Okay.
And the circles transcend barriers, right? They start to pull one line together to another line and to another line, right? And so all of a sudden we can start to ask ourselves more deep questions like, well, what about this market segment over here? They're getting older, they're not buying this anymore. What if we change this feature, change this pricing over here, and got different distribution over there?
Huh.
Maybe we still have them, all right?
The circles actually, when they're together like that, they become swirls.
Yes.
It just becomes, everything is interconnected.
Interconnected, thank you so much. Everything is interconnected, absolutely. And during strategic planning, that's when we fully realize that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a wonderful, thank you so much for not laughing too heartily at my graphic there.
You're going to put me out of business as an illustrator.
No way, not even close. So listen, one of the things that groups try to do to kind of warm up to a strategic planning process, and here we are We're 3, 4, 5 months into the COVID thing, the pandemic. There's a certain degree of uncertainty, although we do have a sense that we're going to get out of this thing in the next few months. Nobody knows for sure what to be doing right now, right? And I think they're sitting on their hands in some ways, just not moving forward quickly.
Not sure where to go. And
not sure where to go or what to do,
Yeah.
right? So one of the ways that people can come at it in a constructive way is to all read a book. Maybe they read a chapter a week, and then they get together over lunch once a week or whatever, and they discuss that chapter and how that book and what they learned in that business book, how it relates to what they're trying to get done.
And you could do this virtually too.
You can do it on Zoom. It's actually perfect for that.
Yeah.
And sometimes that helps to have a facilitator or a third party kind of move things forward. Right. So I've got 6 business books here, Bruce.
Okay.
And what I'd like to do is spend the first half of our show talk about 3 of them and then another 3 later on.
Okay.
But the point of all of this is not just to do a book review, all right? Let's actually try to discuss which one of these books would be the single most relevant and important if you were facilitating the group.
Okay.
Okay? Which one of these 6 books would you choose to say, this is the book we're going to build around? And then maybe of the 6, which is the least relevant in your opinion, just based on what little you know about it. Does that make sense?
Are we going to try to define what type of business we're talking to?
Nah.
No, just in general.
We're going to be in general, yeah.
Okay.
We don't want to get too much into that.
Okay.
But I mean, it could be B2B, it could be B2C. The planning principles are about all the same.
Yeah.
But people do come at it different ways. So shall we get started?
Sure.
Okay, let's take 3 right now, and then we'll, at the back end of the show, we'll start with that. You know what? I'm going to start with an internet-related book.
Okay.
It's called Inbound Marketing. All right.
Okay.
And if there's one thing that I tend to come across, it's people who are, by the way, it's by a gentleman named Brian Halligan, okay? And they're frustrated at their inability to turn the internet into a cash machine for their company.
Oh, that's been a huge challenge for a lot of people.
Well, yeah, I mean, for most of us now, you do see some outrageously successful companies.
Right.
But the ability, and let's talk B2B for just a moment, okay? So the ability to get somebody, to go to your website in the first place, not the easiest thing to do.
Hurdle.
Get them to click and go there, right? That's hard. And then the second thing is, of course, to have some kind of a landing page and convert the site visitor into a legitimate prospect or maybe a legitimate customer. Right. Have you come across this problem yourself?
Well, I'm not in the type of business where I necessarily would be challenged.
Not as big a deal for you.
Not for me. But
but
I can imagine.
You can relate to
the scenario, sure.
Yeah, it comes up all the time. So that's inbound marketing, and we got to determine if this is the book that we want to. A lot of tactics, how to work with Facebook, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And is this where you would actually be trying to create some type of viable information for people to draw them in?
Yes, exactly. For instance, landing pages. All right. Or trying to convert people
who are
just
content marketing that we
content marketing. We've talked about that. When they get to the website, somehow you've got to find something that's valuable that you can give to them free. That lends itself to some kind of action. Something that they value. Maybe this show provides some information that people say, if I could learn from these guys. I don't know for sure. Maybe it's a white paper. Maybe it's a piece of unusual research. It's got to be something that people go, geez, that really does help me out. And I could do something with that. And they also have to think these people must be smart because I'm getting the information from them. All right, so that takes some effort just to get that content. Could be a podcast, could be a book, could be an e-zine, a lot of things.
That all resonates with me, though.
Okay, you get that. All right. Now let's go on to a different, this will be our second entry for this. All right, so we got 6 books. At the end, I'm going to lay them out on this table here, and I'm going to say, name the one that you're going to count on and walk in front and put it in front of somebody. They're going to pay a lot of money. You're say, we're all going to get this book and read it together. It's going to be great, and life is going to be good. Okay. So this second book right here is very, very different. This is about human beings and motivation and culture. Okay. And it's written by a fairly famous individual, Dan Pink. So it's called Drive. And it's about the internal motivation to move forward in your career.
What drives you?
What drives you? What moves you forward? And is it internal Or is it external where, bosses say, look, if sales don't come up, I'm going to have to fire you. Or I'll give you a 20% bonus if you can hit this number by the end of the year. That kind of stuff.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
Now that's common, right? But he's proven in here that the best performers don't need that and don't care about that really. It actually leads to unethical behavior in some cases, So they're looking for 3 things. This is what I recall from the book. Mastery. People want to have a sense that they're really good at this. Right? Autonomy. I'm kind of working by myself.
Yeah.
I have a
some
little bit of an
freedom to
entrepreneurial.
make some calls on your own.
Yeah. A little bit of an entrepreneurial vibe to that. And I think the third one is, I can't quite remember here. I have mastery, autonomy. Not quite what the third one is, but those 2 right there kind of, you're talking about people that get out of bed and love their work and would probably do it for nothing in a way because they love it so much.
And I think the performance results have got to be better.
Oh yeah, no,
under
absolutely.
those circumstances.
Because they have that look in their eye when they're working. It's like the zone. Being in the zone.
Right.
Somebody called it flow. Where they're just into it and they just love doing it. And so that I think would be an important book for companies maybe that have trouble with culture, the employees aren't showing up, there's bickering.
That would totally transform a culture into
Wouldn't
something really positive if everybody loved, and I know that's kind of a utopian idea, but if
you could move them that way.
If you could move them in that direction where your employees are really enjoying their work.
Outstanding. So that's a really interesting thing. And somebody said, well, we're doing strategic planning, and you're talking to us about getting to the heart of our employees. That's either a foolish move or a brilliant move. One of the 2.
Right.
All right. So I'm going to do one more, a third one here before we sign off and go into the middle of our segment. This book, I gotta tell you, man, this was written by a guy named James Moore. It's called The Death of Competition. I'm sorry I don't have a fancy book cover here. But this is, it was written in the mid to late 90s.
Wow.
But it applies directly to internet platforms, what they call partner ecosystems, groups of businesses that have finally said, and this is right now, we're coming out of this COVID thing, this is going to be a hot trend, let's work together. Let's collaborate. Yeah. Let's see if we can't find some market segment that by working together we can create value and make a lot of money.
Yeah, collaborations, and I've been involved in businesses where we had like a joint, even with semi-competitive businesses, you find a way to have a common ground. It really is powerful.
It really can be powerful.
It is 1 + 1 = 3.
And you know what, I'm going to tell you something. When we come back, I'm going to talk about an example of that kind of strategy that theoretically, right, could involve you. All right, I have an idea up my sleeve. We discussed it, by the way, some time ago, maybe a couple years ago, but it actually is a wonderful example of what he's trying to promote.
Yeah.
And be a fascinating strategic discussion we'll have about you and your business. And let us just tell our audience, most everybody knows Bruce Aaron. He's a well-known children's book publisher, author, editor, and of course, tell us the name of the 2 wonderful books about sleeping before we go.
Well, yeah, real quick. The ones that I've actually written and illustrated are Simpson's Sheep Won't Go to Sleep and Simpson's Sheep Just Want to Sleep.
Just Want to Sleep, right, the exact opposite. It's fascinating. And we're going to come back and talk about James Moore's book, The Death of Competition, as it relates to those 2 books.
Really? Okay.
Yes, and then we'll move on forward and talk about the other books.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. Well, I think we're getting an indication here of from our cameraman here and our production crew. We'll just take a quick hard stop right now, if you don't mind.
Sure.
You know, Bruce, I was just reading the other day, one of the main problems that companies have is they never articulate what the core reason for their existence really is.
A lot of them don't even know. I don't think.
Right. I mean, they would have real trouble.
They really would to articulate that.
And some of them have like real cheesy looking mission statements on the wall. They don't even know what they say.
Yeah.
They don't even compare what they do every day. They don't walk the talk, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's really a big issue, as it relates, by the way, this whole strategic planning thing that we're discussing. Right. But I want to talk about this show as it relates to that principle, okay?
You're going to come up with a cheesy
I'm going to come up with something really cheesy that you'll never remember, and we'll put it in a plastic frame and put it on the wall. It'll be great.
Love it.
No. I want to get back to the core reason we call this particular show Wild Biz Nebraska, right? And I want to reiterate to people across the entire state of Nebraska how serious we are about serving them journalistically. Okay? The real idea here is, of course, this is a local cable TV show here in the Omaha, Nebraska area. That's great, no problem. Right. A nice, large group of subscribers there, and that's cool. But it does, of course, go up onto YouTube, and all of a sudden now we've got the web, we can go anywhere we want. Right?
It's global.
Absolutely, we're global. So let's talk about the state of Nebraska. I mean, there are all kinds of fascinating things going on across the state that if we had a press release, if they sent us a little story about, hey, Lynn, up here in Broken Bow, out here in Ogallala, we just did this. We built a new building. We have a new mayor. We have a new chamber person, and this is their vision. We've got a new project for entrepreneurs in our downtown, whatever it is.
I think that'd be interesting.
Wouldn't that be fascinating?
Yeah, I'd like that.
And we could talk about that,
Sure.
you know, and we can either just read it straight ahead in a way, or we can do it in some kind of informal conversational way, whatever. It might even stimulate the rest of the show, just based upon what the topic is. But I just want to send this message out loud and clear to chamber people, economic developers all across the state of Nebraska, whether it's Norfolk or Holdridge or Chadron or wherever it is. We're interested in everybody's business at a community level. If you have a business that's doing something special, any project that you're proud of and you put some energy into.
No, I think that's smart. I think it shows the strength of the state.
Absolutely. And we can, you know, everybody's very fragmented and pulled apart. We're going to try to pull them together, at least informationally, on this show. And so we want to tell you, we're going to throw up my personal email right now. Okay. All right, we'll put it up on the screen and ask you to write it down, please, and start sending me your stuff. And I can't wait to hear from you, and we will talk about it on camera here. And it'll help your organization, help your community. So the number, of course, or the name is lynn@lynnhinderrocker.com, lynn@lynnhinderrocker.com. That's LYNNHINDERAKER.com. Bruce goes, oh boy, do I know that? Do I know that? That's a long one. Of course, our number is 402-208-5519. Call us. Say, hey, are you serious? You really want to hear from us when things are going on here in our neighborhood? Yes.
I think that'd be a blast.
I think it'd be great. And that's really the core reason we existed. Yeah. We kind of drifted away. We have a lot of cool things to discuss, but we want to get back to serving the entire state and elevating them, kind of showcasing their best work.
Okay, good, sounds good.
Thank you, Bruce Aaron, and thank you for being here for me today. You make a great difference in the show and the flow of it and so on. I really appreciate your help. All right?
Thank you.
Should we go back to the show now? Should we go back to our books?
Absolutely.
But let's talk about your strategic twist. Let's talk about the death of competition for just a moment. Okay,
sure.
I mean, it's your show, it's my show, we can go any way we want,
I'm
right?
intrigued how I'm involved here.
Listen, what business are you really in, right?
If I had to boil it down, I'm in the storytelling. I'm in the communication business.
Okay. All right. That's a reasonable response.
I mean, I
can see where you're going.
That's very boiled down.
Yes.
I communicate both through pictures and words.
Yes. I think it's not. I don't think that's it.
You don't?
No, I don't think that's it. Now, I'm going to talk about the two books that have built your franchise up to this point. I don't know about the new thing and all that. All right. Yeah. I know you got new work going on, and that's great. But let's just talk about Simpson Sheep. For a minute, all right. I happen to have babies. All right.
Yeah.
I have children in my family. Right. Yeah. And they love your books.
Thank you.
They love your books, and
they have exquisite taste in literature.
Yeah, and Grandpa read it again. Grandpa read it again. Okay. Now I try to read it just before we go to bed.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Okay. Now they get in the mode where they're thinking about sleep.
Right.
Right. It's not easy to put little kids to bed sometimes, as you probably know.
That's why I wrote the book.
I think you're in the sleep business.
Ah.
I think you're in the sleep business.
That's interesting.
So you read the book on the sofa, you say, let's go to bed, and we'll see more Simpson Sheep, and you go up there, and the bed has bed sheets, right, with Simpson Sheep, bed clothes, bed covers, beautiful pillows. The kids are all relating everything they're seeing. They're cozy. Read the book again, please, Grandpa. You're in the sleep business, sir. Yeah.
Hadn't thought of it that way.
Yeah.
No, that's good.
I really think that is good. And I realize at this moment in time, that may seem like a stretch to you.
No, not really. I could see how that could be.
That's what you're selling is the notion of coziness and happiness and sleeping. And the sheep are just an icon for our consciousness relaxing.
Yeah, it's just something warm and fuzzy. And,
Yeah, and children get that.
Right.
So I just want to tell you this. I know you're a great speaker and presenter, and you can talk about your books and so on and so forth, but I think you have a whole chapter in front of you from a career point of view. And by the way, at this point in time, if you ramp up by Christmas, there might be a factory in China banging out beautiful, fluffy bedclothes and bedspreads, all with the beautiful sheep and the art everywhere.
I'll get on that then. I don't
You
have much
get
time.
on that. I'll take a small portion of the licensing fee that you are going to sell them. All right.
No
All right. Let's
problem.
go on with the rest of the book.
Sure.
All right. So here we go. This is a cool book. This is big time right here. This is Eric Ries's book called The Startup Way.
Okay.
This gentleman, Eric Ries, has really become well known in Harvard and so on and so forth. But he's also the guy that came up with the book called The Lean Startup.
Okay.
And that word lean is big time. There are coffee discussion groups all over the country right now about how to start a lean company or a lean project.
Right.
All
That's been a thing for a while.
Yeah, he's really ascending, and he's probably in his late 30s, so he's a young man. But anyway, I just want to tell you this. This is the core reason behind this book, and by the way, we know it's related to the Nebraska project. We've talked about that before. But the concept here is to get established companies that are doing well, have been doing well probably for 20 years, right? But they will tell you behind closed doors, and their most honest admission, they will tell you that they're in probably a little bit of a rut.
Yeah. Which happens naturally.
It's understandable.
Yeah.
Just repeat the formula, make money, go home, forget about it, right? But what Eric Ries's book is all about are 3 or 4 kind of core principles. One of them is called the minimum viable proposition. Launch a new company, do it kind of on the cheap, get a new product out there kind of on the cheap, see how people respond, tweak it a little bit, see?
You have to be willing to take some risks.
Take some
obviously,
risks, but you don't have to blow a ton of money to get a feel for whether the market actually likes the product.
Yeah.
Then you can go ahead and change, bundle it, enhance it, whatever. So it's a very interesting book, and this could be a wonderful book for a group of people trying to think about how do we revitalize the company and get going.
That really could. And it would all, I say it 1,000 times, but it has to start at the top. You know, if you've got top management who wants to do this, then it can work. And that's a beautiful thing.
All right, and we've already talked about James Moore, The Death of Competition.
Right.
And his whole thing, by the way, I have to say once again, is the word mutualism. Mutualism. What do we have in common? Do we serve the same market? Do we sell the same adjectives? Are we fast? Are we convenient? What can we do together to redefine the marketplace? That's what this is all about. He's way ahead of his time. That's coming now, even though that's 20 years old. All right, now here's a Gary Vaynerchuk. Do you know this guy?
I don't know him.
Yeah, he's possibly one of the biggest social media stars of our culture today.
Huh.
And Crushing It is his first book. He's got several others.
So it's about social media?
Well, yeah, he runs a social media marketing agency.
Okay.
Yeah, and his deal is we come up with big ideas and disrupt the industry with cool ways to manipulate social media so that you sell a lot of products. He's very forward about that. But the key thing that I love about this, and I'd love to quote this right now, because there are many entrepreneurs that are watching this show, all right? They themselves are wondering, am I wasting my time? Is this product really going to go anywhere?
Right.
Am I going to be broke in 2 months? All that kind of stuff. And he has such, he says, first of all, he says, Facebook, he loves Facebook, and he likes to message people cold on Facebook.
Huh.
All
Just
right?
cold.
Cold, I mean, reach out to people that don't know him and use Facebook to do it. And he built his business for 2 years, and it says right here, he says, if you did like me, he says, I spent 7 to 8 hours every day for 2 years.
Wow.
Sending out, hey, I'm into this, I see you're into that, call me if you'd like to talk more about my product. Basically, all right? He did that for 7 or 8 hours a day for 2 years. And
just to build the platform
to
of the
build,
business?
and he said, because 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20 doesn't really matter. Sooner or later, you're going to hit somebody who likes what you're about and wants to kind of hook up with, maybe share a podcast. That'd be an example of something.
Sure.
So we say, I'd like to get involved. So anyway, he says, you do that, and once you tap into them, you go through them. Now you know thousands of people through them.
Wow.
See? He sees it that way.
It's exponential growth.
Exponential growth.
Almost immediately.
And he's a hard-working dude, and that's what Crushing It is all about. So there's that. I got to move on quickly here. We only have 2 or 3 minutes. The last book that I would suggest is The Future Ain't What It Used to Be. Okay. This is all about future trends. Again, this was written years ago, but about 90% of these trends are only now coming into fruition. These people are way ahead of the curve.
Wow.
The future ain't what it used to be. So this is when they talk about security, how we're going having a fear in our society, so we're very interested in security, and I mean, that'd be one thing.
Right.
Or organic beauty products is another one. Another one is technology morphing. I call it the organotech trend, where you're wearing a coat or a watch or anything. It's part of your body, really. And its sensors are, of course, interacting with your computer.
So they were that forward thinking?
Oh man, this you wouldn't believe. So the point of it all, though, is, hey, what's going on in the world today that we can tweak our product, tweak our message, and we can be more relevant by leveraging this trend, see?
Because relevancy that's so fleeting.
That's everything. If you're irrelevant, you're out of the game.
Yeah, and it happens, you have to stay ahead of the curve all the time.
Okay, so wrapping up now, Mr. Bruce Arendt. We've got to wrap up the show here on Biz Nebraska. Thank you so much for chatting with me.
Thanks for having me.
We've got 6 books here. Tell me the book that you would walk into the room and say, this is the book we're all going to read together. If we get it, then we will be doing great under these circumstances.
I'm torn between 2, but I'll tell you which ones, but I'm going to land on one. Inbound marketing, I think having relevant information for people is something that everybody appreciates. But
and it's hard to do.
But in order to even get there, you have to have a mind shift corporately, culturally.
Yeah.
I think the startup way would be probably where you have to have a core of new thinking so that you could come up with new processes and more information.
I can't disagree too much with that. He's definitely into the growth mindset. This is definitely something that people don't do that well, they need help with. This is kind of strategy, this is tactical. I would agree with you, except for I think this James Moore's stuff, the death of competition, the whole notion of collaboration, of working with people to open up new marketplaces, that's a killer idea as well.
That's big too.
Bruce Arendt, I want to thank you so much for jumping into all of this with me.
That was fun. I enjoyed that.
These are great books, and you can start with any of them and move your business forward. And
I noticed you didn't have Simpson sheet books in here.
No, but I got an idea there, as you well know by now. Let's go sell sleep. I love it. I love it. Okay. Well, listen, I'm Lynn Hinderrocker. This is Biz Nebraska. Thank you for watching us. Thank you for hanging out with Bruce and I. We're going to be back next time. We've got more fresh ideas, new trends, new ways to succeed in business, whether you're big or tiny. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much. And everybody in Nebraska, send us your news. We'll talk about you. Thanks again.